Where's the
browse? Check it on our Facebook page.
Yeah. Well, okay.
That's what I mean.
So, just FYI, guys, we are live.
We're live.
Yeah. So let me just do this. I'm going to go to view on Facebook like that. I can see where it is. Nice. I'll send you guys a link in our group chat.
Mm-hmm. All right. Perfect.
Okay. So there it is.
Right.
Yeah, man. So feel free to go ahead and share.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah. So this is the first of hopefully many podcasts to come. Welcome everybody who's watching live. This is the Unashamed Truth podcast, episode 1.
Yes.
Very much something that came to light in one of those adrenaline, like, let's do it now moments.
Oh yeah, got a lot to talk about.
If this doesn't come off as we would have liked, it's Gift's fault, because Gift is like, go for it.
I'm like a guy who's like a carpe diem guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, got to seize the moment. I'm that thinker that's stuck like this all the time, just kind of saying to himself, "Oh man, I should do this," but never building up the courage. So I guess it's good to have a Gift in your life, somebody that could just push you towards achieving your goals.
Mm-hmm.
It's really fun. Yeah. Thanks, guys.
So, yeah. So, Gift, I don't know if you want to maybe just share a little bit about what the podcast is really going to be about, and kind of what our goals are, what our objectives are, what are the things we want to talk about or cover.
Yeah. Basically, like a few days ago, like Terry, Dwight, and I, like we and some other friends of ours, we've been just like talking about things that have been happening recently within the US, and we're like, what? Like, why don't we start a talk where we can just like talk about like how we feel about what's been going on, and just even our experiences, and maybe even like extended to like issues related to culture and arts and music. So it's not going to be all serious or anything like that. And we're like, let's do this, and and here we are, and we'll see how it goes. And we want you guys to be a part of this discussion. We don't want it to be kind of a three-way convo in any way. But
I definitely agree. It's I think we live in an interesting time where it's so easy for us to like share opinions, and you don't need to have a crazy studio set up. Like, I'm literally in like the spare room in my house where we throw like cardboard boxes because we're planning to move in the next few weeks, and I have like my wife's crochet stuff behind me and everything like that, and like, but meanwhile we can actually just do something that's positive, and we can reach out to people from the comfort of literally our own home. So it's interesting to see how this could come together.
Yeah.
Dwight, you're the strong silent type.
Yeah, no, I'm coming up, guys. I'm coming up. It's just funny. My wife's in the background saying, "Look at the camera. You look so distracted."
Yeah, that's awesome.
Behind every strong man, there's an even stronger woman, right?
Exactly. Just ready to give it to you.
Oh yeah.
Sit up straight. No, but we love them for that.
So, man, that's it. The idea here is simply to have fun. We're going to talk about some stuff, though. You know what I mean? We're going to talk about what's going on, by the things that affect us. And there's some stuff that went down in the last couple of weeks, last couple of days, last couple of years. It seems like, hey, we got some stuff to talk about, man. So, and that's
for real.
We want to get into it and talk about it. Want to bring these conversations to the table.
Yeah.
Because there's just stuff that, unless we are the ones that bring it up, it's not going to get talked about.
That's true.
That's it. And I think the biggest disservice is when other people talk on our behalf about our experiences. Actually, just yesterday I was having a conversation with my wife about about like a few movies that have been written recently from the perspective, they're supposed to be telling historically Black stories, but they're being told from the perspective of like, white writers in rooms that have no connection with the culture, and to them, it's like, how are you supposed to really explain to people who we really are? How are you supposed to understand what it is that we as people go through when you haven't been through those things, you haven't lived those experiences? I understand that all people face certain levels of discrimination and certain levels of mistreatment and prejudice and stuff, but the question becomes, sorry, I have a little visitor, but the question becomes, like, do you understand really the weight of it? Because it's more than just, somebody made me feel awkward in how they spoke to me, but it could be a matter of life and death, like we saw this past week. Seeing such a tragic video of like what happened to Aubrey, to Arbery, like it was just crazy to see that, something as trivial as going for a run could become, your last moments.
Yeah.
And that's it. So one thing I found interesting this weekend was we were listening to one of our friends in our other group chat shared a video from Kirk, where he was expressing his feelings about this situation, and I just thought it would be apropos to share it in the podcast, because I think it really reflects how a lot of us are kind of feeling inside. And it resonated with me when I heard it. So do you guys want to? We'll go to the video.
Let's
Cool.
Man, I know I look crazy today, but I want to appeal to you to consider adding something to your already overflowing plate. In no way am I striving to be insensitive to the millions of Americans who are facing astronomical unemployment numbers that haven't been seen since the Great Depression, or the 1.2 million Americans affected with COVID-19. Or by the time this video was done, the number of deaths that are swiftly approaching 100,000 due to this pandemic. I am asking you to not forget another pandemic that has plagued these yet to be United States for hundreds of years. Yet again, the pandemic of race. There are legitimate concerns about the dishonoring of the dead and the trauma that these images continue to bear on an already traumatized community. Yeah, I get it. Yet to those who continue to minimize the reality of our country's original and ongoing sin, I encourage you to watch the video of the murdering of 25-year-old Ahmaud Arbery by two overvigilant oppressors while he was jogging. Again, jogging. I need you to see the video, digest it, embrace the trauma, just as Mamie Till wanted her son Emmett Till's casket to be open so the entire world could see the evil and hatred that still resides in the hearts of many Americans. I subscribe to the same ideology. The sickness can never be addressed until it is exposed. So the next time you hear your Black and brown friends scream and cry against the evil of social injustice, you will have a reference point that is 150 years after Reconstruction. This isn't repackaged or revamped rhetoric from the 1960s. This is 2020 pain that allows me, as Paul says in Ephesians, to be angry yet without sin, because prosecutor George Barnhill and DA Jackie Johnson have already done enough. And for anyone that seems to find solace in bringing up the past of this young man to justify his life being taken, I invite you to stop listening to my music, or hearing the sermon of your favorite evangelist, or voting in the next election, because we all have a past that exempts us from perfection, yet frees us to jog. There are good people in the world, every race, every gender, every nationality, and those of us that are strong should bear the infirmities of the weak. So while we fight to find a vaccine that helps us survive a new future we all face, let us continue to fight the virus of evil with the vaccine of love. Happy 26th birthday, Aubrey. Let love and justice prevail.
I just hearing it again, man, I have goosebumps, because he hits the nail on the head, and it's so profound to hear that perspective, and I'm the type of person, I usually, if I see that these types of videos and stuff like that, like the video of him being shot and stuff like that, are being shared online and stuff like that, I try to skip over them, and like as I was going through Google yesterday, just kind of like just making sure like I had the facts and I had his name down correct, and I still fumbled over it. I came across the video, and it was interesting because when I first saw the article pop up and somebody shared it with me, my first feeling was I'm dead inside. I hear this, we've heard this story repeat itself, and we've seen kind of what happens, and you get invested in hoping that you can do something, but you're helpless. Already as it is, his life is gone. And this time, the news report that I was watching to just get a few facts about the situation, like they literally just played it, and it was one of those things where I was kind of locked into it, and like just the sounds of the gunshots, man, were just unbelievably loud. And it was to know that his last experience, he was helpless. You know what I mean? He fought. He really fought for his life, but he was in a situation where he was just, he couldn't fight them off.
Yeah.
And sorry, I don't want to take up too much room, guys. You could share what you think.
Oh, Terry, say your thing, man. We're bunching.
I think for the most part, the thing that hits me the most is, there's like we've seen both sides of the situation, and like you hear the protests going on and stuff like that, and you hear people saying like, oh, you, almost like trying to force you to choose sides. It's your Black Lives Matter, your Blue Lives Matter, your whatever, right? Your All Lives Matter. Mm-hmm. And the truth of the matter is this: is that like, I have a tremendous amount of respect for law enforcement, for police officers. I'm somebody who like abides by the laws, and I do my best to be as forthcoming and as polite as possible if ever I have an altercation where I get pulled over or something like that, Mm-hmm. And the thing is, like, even when I remember there was a time where we took the girls out to the mall. It was around Christmas time, and the police officers were in the mall hanging out with Santa and the kids and stuff like that. And I made sure that I took Jordan over to go meet a police officer to say, hey, look, Jordan, this is a police officer. Say hi, and mm-hmm. stuff like that. Just because I know it may seem small and insignificant now, but just so that she always grows up with that thing of, this is a person that I respect. And it's really because the long game is you want to make sure that she knows how to interact with these people who have a level of power that's unmatched, right?
And then that's it, right? So we're stuck with that. We're the ones that have to educate our kids and do all of that, and then we got to turn on the news and see this stuff.
Yeah,
that's it. And so it becomes it's a paradigm, because you're trying to tell your kid be respectful, but yet they see something that they know inherently is not right.
Yeah.
You understand? And the thing is, you think that it's at an older age that they would start to understand, but they understand from young that like there's, they get the gist of what they see kind of when we're watching the news, you know what I mean? And they judge by our reactions that what's happening isn't cool.
Yeah.
Sorry. Joy's here just photobombing me while I'm trying to be serious. Yeah. But the thing about it, and the point, sorry, that I was trying to make before, I don't want to be long-winded, but the point for me is that I feel like the people that perpetrate these types of things don't realize the damage that they're doing to law enforcement as a whole, as a collective, because they're making the jobs of police officers even harder, because for the police officers who work hard to gain people's trust, people approach them with apprehension. People automatically get on the defensive. You know what I mean? So it's like it's an ongoing situation, and it just keeps putting more fuel on the fire.
Yeah, but imagine, as a Black man, though, you live in a world where you want to say, because I've heard some people talking against the situation, right? Mm-hmm. Saying things like, "Oh, he shouldn't have resisted," and you're like, "Well, wait a second."
Yeah.
These guys are not even cops. You know what I mean?
That's it, right? That's it.
So you mean to tell me that now a Black man has to use these non-resistance act in a non-resistive, submissive way to even an average citizen,
Yeah.
Like, where do our rights begin?
Exactly. That's it.
Is he supposed to comply with just anybody?
Yeah.
Don't worry
Yeah.
about it, man, Terry. We in confinement. This is the
Yeah, Terry, it's all good.
content, man. Don't worry.
Yeah. Listen, man, this is what you're hearing here is my situation each day, every day since the quarantine started.
That's
Now,
real.
mind you,
Real, man.
it's a lot of fun to be able to hang out with the kids at lunch breaks and stuff like that, and have them kind of just pop in while you're in a meeting and stuff like that. It's really a lot of fun, and I'm so thankful. I'm really thankful for the company I work for. To be able to kind of just be at home. That they've given us this flexibility.
Yeah.
And stuff like that, and to know also that my kids are safe ultimately, because this COVID is no joke. No joke.
Yeah. My question to you guys is like, how do we get like the kids to understand that like this world, there is injustice there, and there are people who are actually doing good work within the law enforcement. And I mean, when I think about people like Trayvon Martin, it's like Trayvon Martin was like, what, 16, 17?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like when you see cases like that, it's like, how do you tell your kids that there's still hope out there? And as parents, like, both of you are parents, and like I'm 30 right now, and I'll be honest, guys, like I'm extremely jaded right now. I'm like, I don't trust the law enforcement at all.
Yeah.
I've just got into that point where I'm like, you know what, like they are after minority groups, they're after like Black folks. Like I've got into that point where I'm like, yo, it's done. It's done. Like, yeah.
I don't know if you want to tackle it, but you have an older child than mine.
Yeah, but that's it. I was going to chime in there, and say, like, that's the thing. I'm petrified every day. Every time I turn on the news, I hear these stories. I think of my son. I think of how sometimes he can be, he could just fly off at he's a kid, right? He's a teenager, right? And like I think of the fact that, man, I gotta teach him. No, in these situations, you can't be excited like that. You gotta, you gotta figure out how to compose yourself and speak to a police officer, speak to a person in authority that way, so that you come home at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Like that freaks me out. I'll never forget last year or a year before. I was training and I was working on myself. And one morning I went down by the park, and the path that I was taking, the little running path I was taking, led me to the park. And lo and behold, there's maybe 30 or so police officers at the park that morning. They just all these police cars just somehow, for some reason, just congregated there. And I'll never forget, like when I was a kid, I would see something like that and I'd be like, wow, all the police cars, and I want to see the cars. I'd want to go, but now I see that and I'm just afraid. I was really afraid. And I get you. And I'm like, I don't want my son to live in a world like that. And how do I, the question is, how do I prepare him for a world that I've never seen before?
Yeah. It's true. It's true.
Scary, man.
It's funny because I recall going through the phase where, like, you're in awe when you see police officers as a kid. Growing up, our parents had friends who were cops, and I think that's where like it became ingrained in us, because my mom lived in a building where a young boy grew up to become a cop.
Mhm.
And so, he knew. So anytime, it was interesting, anytime that the police were in the neighborhood, he would come by and check on my parents, see how they were doing. And he was super cool. And he was actually a police officer at the airport. So when I was going, I think on my honeymoon or something like that, like I see him and I'm like, hey, how's it going? And he recognized me, and stuff. So I think that's why we have that we have positive experiences. And I think a big part of it for me with my girls is I try to teach my girls, as it is with their just regular day-to-day discipline, that you can be a good person, but have a bad moment, a bad temperament, but that doesn't mean that you're always bad, right? And for, unfortunately, the stories that we're hearing a lot are the bad stories. And those are the stories that freak us out. I remember when I was driving down to Tampa, I remember Fabi and I were having this conversation in the car, and she's like, Terry, this same hoodie that I have here, I had it before I left. She's like, don't wear your hoodie. I don't care what you do not wear your hoodie, because we all had Trayvon Martin still in,
right,
fresh in our brains. And we literally have this moment almost documented, because as we're driving down, we cross. I'm telling Fabi, don't worry about it, man. Like, the news exaggerates things. Things are going to be fine. Don't worry. As soon as we cross the state line that says, welcome to Florida, I mean, 600 meters into the state of Florida, I see lights go on behind me, and I'm like, so I pull over, and it's a state trooper and stuff like that, and he sees our car, and he sees the license plate that says Quebec, so right away he kind of has questions, so like, man, I was like this, holding my steering wheel, like, I'm not moving, and like, he came to the window, rolled down the window. I'm like, okay, I'm reaching for actually, I had heard that it was a good idea to put your stuff on the dashboard if you get pulled over. So before he walked over to the car, I put everything on the dashboard. And then, I told him, look, I'm reaching for my license. I'm reaching for this, and stuff. And then he actually turned out to be fairly cool. We had a little back and forth because we disagreed a little bit about the speed that I was driving at. But then he was like, listen, I'm going to let you off with just a warning today. He's like, listen, welcome to Florida. You're from out of town. You're going to be here for a while. He's like, he gave me just a few traffic tips, like, when you're driving and it's raining, make sure your lights are on, blah, 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 this, that. And he's like, reduce your speed, just be mindful of your speed on the highways, because we're out here and that's what we do, and he sent us along our way and stuff. And then within another 2 weeks, we had another interaction with the police, and this one was kind of funny. He gave me just a few traffic tips, like, when you're driving and it's raining, make sure your lights are on, blah, blah, blah. Sorry, is that you, Dwight? I think Dwight had a little like, okay. So the other story was that the weekend that we moved into our apartment complex, we had some bikes that were locked in front of our apartment complex, just locked to the front guardrail. And I didn't think anything of it, man. Fabi and I were too busy with unpacking our boxes and trying to get settled and stuff like that. So it was like a Sunday night. We go to bed. I'm dead tired, hot from undoing the boxes. So I'm like in my like tank top and boxers sort of thing. And as I'm like zoning out to fall asleep, I hear and I'm like, yo, what's going on?
Yeah.
I look through the little peephole, and I just see Florida, Hillsborough County Sheriff, white T-shirt, green apparel, and green, all the paraphernalia, And so, like, in a moment of panic, I go, Fabi, the police are at the door. And Fabi's like, Fabi starts laughing at me. Fabi has this laugh, man, that, like, when she catches you doing something stupid, the whole neighborhood knows you did something stupid. But anyways, so she's like, well, open the door. So I open the door, and I'm like, hi, what's going on? And then the lady, she explained, she's like, do you have any bikes? And I could see kind of out of the corner of my eye that the chain was missing and one bike was gone. And she's like, how many bikes do you have? And I'm like, I had 2. And then she explained to me what happened. And one of our neighbors had seen a kid steal the bike and call the cops. And she was super cordial about it and stuff like that,
Yeah.
But like, it's a different thing when you're on the opposite side of law enforcement,
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. That's it. Like, there's so much. there's so much trauma from everything that we've gone through personally, let alone the things we hear about.
Yeah.
It always makes these moments tense.
Yeah.
And what is the conversation? What is the march? What is the what that we have to do so that we could engage in a meaningful either discussion, something meaningful that actually brings us to a place where we progress towards a better life, a better world where this trauma is a thing of the past. What's the path there? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned trauma, because when we started this whole social distancing thing, right?
Yeah.
And we started hearing announcements about how people are going to be fined if they're seen like walking as a group, etc. And to be honest, dude, like when I heard that, I just started thinking of like black folks. I immediately started thinking of black folks. I was like, oh shit, this means license to kill. I mean, that's the conclusion that I went towards. I was like, this means license to kill, because if like black folks are seen in some gathering and they are in fact 2 meters apart, some stuff is gonna go down.
Yeah.
And then just to show you how much trauma, right, that like we're going through, right, and like. Hearing this whole Ahmad case, man, I broke down, man. And like throughout all the years where we've been like witnessing so many shootings and things happening in the US and even in Canada, like, yes, I've been affected, but not to this same extent. I'm like, dude was jogging.
Yeah.
Dude was jogging. Broad daylight, 1 p.m. 1 p.m. broad daylight. Like, how like you could think of excuses and you could be like, okay, maybe it was at night. They could have mistaken a comb for a gun, or whatever.
All the variables that they
variables you could think of, dude.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And this was broad daylight, 1 p.m. And I just couldn't shake out of it. Couldn't shake out of it.
No, man, and that's the thing that makes it so devastating, because usually I would sit on the sidelines. Normally, I would just, like I've become so numb to it, to the point where it's just like, man, just play what's next. I'm just gonna like just play the next show. I don't want to hear about it no more. Yeah.
Well, one thing,
but this happened.
Yeah.
The way that it happened.
Yeah.
And I like, it was like, that was it. It like something inside of me said, no, like enough's enough.
And Dwight, it's like in the blatant injustice, right? Like we know the justice system is not always just, right? We can agree on that.
Right.
But like, guys, these guys were living in their houses for 2 months without like questioning from the police. Without anything, these guys, like they're doing their barbecues at home with their loved ones, continuing as if like life is good. You know what I mean?
As if they did a good thing.
Yeah.
As if
we saved the world. Like, come on.
Come on.
And it's funny because you could tell that the 2 guys that perpetrated this were from the same demographic that were protesting a week before, because they want to go get their tattoos, and they want to be able to go get a drink at their favorite bars and stuff like that, and it's just like, oh God, man. I think one thing that I found interesting, so Kirk Franklin was also involved in a conversation with a few pastors, and I found it really interesting to hear kind of their perspective. I'm not going to play the video because it's really long, but I did share the link in our description. And it was interesting to kind of just hear also, because like, who knows, well, I'm just going to be frank with it. Like my first real introduction to racism that I was aware of happened in the walls of the church. And he was a very,
Great. Great. Let me sit upright for this.
See, I got Gift sitting upright. He's leaning in now. That was my first, and it was probably the most traumatizing. Okay, I'm not gonna say traumatizing. Like, it wasn't like I feared for my life situation, but I just saw a new side of people, and what it killed was there was a feeling when I first started going to church, when I was like attending youth and stuff like that, that like this was probably the safest place I could be in. You know what I mean? That the people that I was in that circle with were probably going to be friends maybe for life. Yeah. And that this type of stuff didn't exist. You understand what I mean? Like, especially because we went to such a multicultural church, right? Yeah. Now, the person in particular that this happened with did not come from our church, but they were attending our church for a while because of certain circumstances and stuff. And it was just like, and those things formed me to become the person I am today. And I like to keep people at arm's length because of that situation, because it hurt me so bad that I was just like, you know what? I am going to put up all these walls now, man. And it's like, if you want to get to Terry, you got to come through 6 million walls. You know what I mean? And that's why and that carried over into like my professional life too. Like, it's like I work, in an environment that is not very well. It's getting better. It's getting more and more diverse. But initially, when I started, I remember I was the only black dude for a little bit, until like I started meeting 2 or 3 other black folks like in other departments and stuff like that. But it's like I can't say that I've dealt with anything negative really in that environment. There's maybe 1 or 2 people that just had a certain way about them. But ultimately, it made me always say that I have to fight. I have to be the best. I have to work hard, and I have to, fight. And the thing about it is that it becomes tiring, because it's like I didn't ever, it took me a long time before I felt like I could actually just coast and enjoy kind of my work, coast and enjoy my life without having to think, is this person thinking badly about me? Does this person see me as an equal? Or am I, even though I may be as qualified or maybe even more qualified, am I starting from 10 yards back all the time?
Interesting.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And and let me just be clear, that's not just in the work environment, but that's even with neighbors. When I meet, we move to a new neighborhood and you meet people, it's like, will these people feel cool with us? Will they accept us? Will they be calling the cops? Will they be peeping out their windows and stuff like that? And fortunately, we haven't had any bad experiences with those types of people.
It's interesting you mentioned this. Like, my first experience of racism was one of my first few jobs. I was the only black person there and the only black disabled person there. And those 2 identities, bro, like it's real. You are facing a lot of barriers within the work environment where people are atypical, let's just say. And I remember a colleague of mine who was not black, but like a person of color, comes to me and says, Gift, I see you're making all these changes, but the supervisor hasn't really given us any profile of what you're all about, what your background is, your experience. We think you should slow down a bit until we get a good understanding of who you're about and what exactly are you doing here. I froze, and to me, that kind of statement is something. No offense, white people, but this is this is something that I would expect from a white person. And for me to hear this coming from a person of color, I was taken aback. I'm like, dude, we're supposed to have each other's back here.
You're right.
We are the only 2 people here who are quote unquote like minorities.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and Terry's being funny. You know, like we're the only people here who are minorities. Like we got to like have each other's back, not to be like, you know, at each other's throat and trying to climb at all cost.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's at that moment where I was like, my gosh, the system is really broken.
Yeah.
Really broken to a point like where, you know, it's like seeping in within our community. It's not just within white folks anymore. Now it's like, you know, coming into a community where we are.
Oh, ignorance has no boundaries, my friend.
Preach.
No.
Ignorance has no loyalties. Doesn't placate to any side. Nothing, man. There's ignorance at every turn, man, and that's what we gotta be. We have to be agents that are willing to move counter ignorance, that are not willing to stay in on the sidelines anymore. We gotta go put our, you know, last week we my family, you know, part of getting back to the point about, you know, educating our kids. My wife has made a point to make sure that one thing we do is show, like, you know, we're in this quarantine season and we're taking advantage of this by showing Aiden a number of documentaries. We're educating him on the, you know,
Black experience.
The Black experience. We're educating him. We watched the documentary called Dr. MLK Jr.
Oh yeah.
Last week, and we rented it on Google's platform. And you know, one thing that, you know, just what impacted me the most about it, and then hearing about this, you know, Ahmaud such story was you know, Dr. Martin Luther King, he made sure he went after and he went to the areas where ignorance was prevalent. You know what I mean? He went and confronted it. And if there was another cause that he needed to help out or get on board or get behind, he sought those things out. He didn't stay back. He didn't, you know, he wasn't looking for, you know, like, you got to fly me there or figure out a way for me to get there. No. Wherever there was injustice, he took himself there and put himself in the way of that. And I definitely, after watching it, I said, man, I want to be like that. I want to put we got to have conversations. There's, you know, for the longest time, you know, Terry brought up the point about the church and encountering racism there's conversations that in the church we need to be ready to have. This is not ready to have, but we got to have them.
Absolutely.
We got to talk about it. You know, I love my church brothers and sisters. I love my church family. You know, I've gone through some crazy things. I've gone through, you know, some crazy highs and crazy lows, right? But as much as I love them, I look at the leadership representative to the demographics that attend. There's no representation. You know, there's a lot of conversations. We have to have.
And I find it's interesting because you find Black pastors oftentimes in the same roles. You know what I mean? It's like he's, you know, the guy he's just the face to say, yes, we like Black people. You know what I mean? But it's like
affirmative action.
Yo, they got quotas like everybody else, bro. No, but I think you've done. Actually, I want to commend you, Dwight, on what you're doing with Aiden. That's so important, especially because we live in an era, I find, where they're erasing and reassigning our history to other people. So it's like, you look at for instance, we were talking about movies before. A big debate a few months back when the Harriet Tubman movie came out was, the guy that's the bounty hunter chasing her. Okay, totally historically inaccurate, is a black dude. You know what I mean? And it's like, so take away the faux from that movie. You understand what I mean? You look at situations like that, like I remember when I was in Florida, I read this story and I almost puked, man. This lady was a principal at a school. Her son was attending another school. And the history, one day he came to his mom, he said, "Mom, you got to read my history book because it's crazy." And like the history book written by the state of Texas, right, by the people in charge. I think even the person in charge of the Board of Education now, there's like, is that lady Betsy DeVos? That's kind of so crazy. They're like, oh yeah, blacks came over, some willingly, some not willingly, and they were thankful for the opportunity to work in this country. And it's like, no, that's not at all what happened. So this lady, I'll have to find the video or something like that, but this lady just tore into the educational board down there and is like, I can't believe that this is a nonsense that you're giving my children to read. Completely just erasing our history. But it's more than just that. It's even like, you look at our music, right? Like Elvis Presley, everybody loves Elvis Presley for whatever reasons, right? But like, Little Richard died this past weekend, sadly. And you look at like people from his era, they were musicians that outshone Elvis by a long shot. But, their music was put aside to promote Elvis because people didn't want to look at a black person. They could appreciate our art, but they can't look at us. And that's I think what is so profoundly disturbing about the situation. It's like we can't exist in a space where you can appreciate just bits and pieces. It's like a buffet, right? And it's crazy because in the South, okay, like those same people that are like that you see that are like these like crazy rednecks are listening to hip hop. You know what I mean? And it's like, but you hate black people, but you listen to the music. Like, it doesn't make any kind of sense. It's like, it's such a crazy paradigm.
They go to the football games. They buy the jerseys.
Basketball games. Yeah.
That's it. So I've been watching The Last Dance. Okay. Now I'm not the biggest like basketball fanatic, but we did grow up, Dwight. You remember how it was, man. Saturday nights sitting in the living room with mom watching Jordan just crush the competition. Yeah. But looking at that era, it's hard for me to look at Jordan and not see a little bit of that whole thing of, like almost that slave auction feeling. You know what I mean? It's like, these guys are in the South. He was playing in North Carolina. So the scouts are looking to just make cash off of his head. In the United States, you're hearing about it. These university football players, basketball players that are playing on these teams that people, man, I couldn't believe when I lived in Florida, how people would go to these games, okay, as if it was a professional league game, like university, college students. People are following their stats. People are like hounding them when they go out for breakfast. They get hounded like the Montreal Canadiens players do here when they go out publicly.
There's 100,000 people at the games,
but these kids are not getting paid at all. You know what I mean? And now they're trying to reform, and some people are fighting, and there's been a back and forth. And, once again, right, all the Southerners that love football are just saying, well, and you have Tim Tebow, right, who's like a spokesperson for the faith now in some weird way, who's like, yeah, you guys should be content to just play, man. Like, just be happy to play, and making money off the backs of these young black. Education. That's it, You're
getting an education.
And then when you watch, I forget, ESPN broke. If there's a documentary about sports, you guys need to watch. I don't know if you've seen it, Dwight.
Okay.
ESPN broke because you see these athletes, man, how they've just gone from, they've made their careers, they've done well, And then all of a sudden, man, they get out and it's like none of them were educated properly. They weren't given the right type of financial advisors or anything like that. And man, these guys are dirt broke, man. Yeah.
Wow.
You know, meanwhile, they made tons of money for universities, but they don't even have the money to pay their own medical bills now for the injuries that they sustained when they were playing the game.
Modern day slavery, man.
That's it.
So that's again, it comes back to, there's a lot of conversations that we have to have, a lot of things. There's a lot of things that we need to be willing to say, and a lot of things that we need to be willing to stand in the way of. You know what I mean?
For real, absolutely. Hey, you know what? This is the coolest part, I think, of this podcast. So we have a few people that have reached out to us. So I just want to acknowledge a few of our guests. So we have Pastor Cal Cran. Hey, Pastor Cal.
Mr. Cal, how are you?
Saying, hey, guys. So I just wanted to reach out.
Thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, absolutely. We have Courtney Bailey, who's also reached out to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta be on top of those, man. These people dropped in a minute ago, man.
Yes.
Yeah, for real. My bad. This is my bad.
We're so involved in the conversation.
Absolutely. And she was in agreement with us on some of our points. Thanks for reaching out, Courtney.
Yeah.
And then, of course, my better half that just had to reach out and say hi to us.
Yeah.
So we appreciate you guys. Thanks for listening into our little boys chat here. Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
No, man,
so
about, man.
yeah. So the last topic we wanted to cover tonight was I did throw that question out there on Facebook yesterday about Kirk Franklin because he's been on my mind since I've been watching this video, and I watched the video that I shared, the poem, and then after that the discussion that he was having with the pastors about just about the voice of the church and stuff like that. So I just wanted to know, I know Dwight, you're a big Fred Hammond head, and I am too, to a certain respect. Gift, I know that you bode very much for Israel, but I don't know, man. I have to say that, we were having a moment where we were just reminiscing. On Sundays we tend to watch our recorded sermon, from our church. Yeah. And then after that, we just hang out and watch music videos and stuff like that. And Kirk was on our radar for some reason, man. And he's got some really interesting takes on music. I think he's been very influential. Yeah. Sure. And yeah, man. And I have to say that I appreciate him, not only for his musicality, not only for just what he does, even like on a worship platform and stuff like that, but also just for sharing his voice the way he did.
Yeah. To answer your question, Terry, I'm gonna say I would call Kirk Franklin not the best.
That was a stretch.
We turned down my temperature over here.
I'm gonna call him the most influential.
Yeah, I think that's the term.
The most influential. No,
I think
honestly, by a long shot.
Yeah.
We're talking about the person that the most people recognize. There's not
outside of the Christian circle. Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Right? When you're talking about representation on both sides of the market.
Yeah.
Right. It's in the community and outside of the community.
He does it well. Yeah.
But not just that he does it well. He's the most influential.
That's true.
The most people recognize him. They know his ministry. They've seen him. They've seen him on awards. They know Kirk Franklin.
Dude, people be playing his stuff in the club, man.
Yeah, that's true. There's no. For me, I dub him the most influential.
Okay, what I can give you, Terry, is that he has a talent for creating songs that are timeless.
Yeah.
Right, like songs that can really stand through the test of time. You listen to Stomp right now, right? That song's a banger. You can still bounce to it.
And I think it's also because it takes you back to a place, right? Like I remember exactly where Stomp takes me back to. Do you remember when we did that play at Evangel called 168 Hours?
Yeah. Oh, Jesus.
And we did the opening of it was we did this like dance routine that a few people had put together, and man, that was an epic time, man. It was when I was in high school. I was just starting high school, just experiencing some more liberty from the primary routine, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
I have a question for you too.
Yeah.
When his album Rebirth came out, please tell me your mouth didn't drop. Rebirth is like one of his best albums of all time.
It is.
And that's still good to this day.
It's true.
And I'm not like a diehard Kirk Franklin guy. Like, I love Kirk. You guys know me, Israel Houghton, like, is my boy. But like, Rebirth is like the album that did it for me.
No, I get you. Like,
I don't know. Do you think you can play like Hosanna or something? You can like stream.
I got a story for you guys about Hosanna. Okay. While I pull it up.
Taste. Yeah.
No. I'll pull it up. But I got a story about that. So when I don't know if Gift I told you this story. When I was in Tampa, okay. When I was in Tampa, okay, the church that I was attending did Hosanna as the opening to their Christmas play, and for me, or to their Christmas service. Okay. And what I loved about it was because it was a little bit out of the norm of the church that I attended, because the church I'm at, there were more hill songs and more that type for worship. Yeah. But man, I went up to the worship leader at our church, to the head of the music department. And I was like, hey, I really appreciate the fact that you guys did Hosanna. For me, that's like a song that, speaks volumes. I love it. Yeah. And he goes, cool. He's like, thanks for sharing that with me. He's like, the first time I heard it, I was in his living room.
What?
And I'm like, right? So Gift, I'm like, in his living room. Whose living room? Like, he's like, Kirk Franklin's living room. I was in his living room the first time I heard this song. My man was playing for a band, and his band was actually opening for Kirk Franklin. Yeah. So that was his introduction to the song. Yeah. So here, let me pull it up for you, Gift. Oh, wait a second. My bad. This is the whole Rebirth. Let's
see if we can get Hosanna in there.
Okay, my bad. Let me just find Hosanna itself.
Bear with us, guys.
Sorry about that, guys. We're still getting used to this whole like multi-streaming,
This is my bad. It was impromptu. You know what I mean?
It's all good. It's all good. No, man. I got a boy for you while you guys do this.
You still haven't ordered your lawnmower 2.0? You're trying to squeeze anything on it, good guys.
Yes, for technical difficulties.
The choir.
Yeah, I love this jam. Just to show how long he's been at it too, huh?
Yeah.
Italy! Woo!
The angels fall out at the thought of you. The darkness gives way to the light for you. The fact that you Hosanna forever, we worship you. Hosanna forever, we worship you. The angels fall out at the thought of you. The darkness gives way to the light for you. The fact that you pray gives us life and new. Hosanna forever, we worship you. Hosanna forever, we worship you. For you are the joy that my soul adores. The man that was raised for my sins, and the one I adore. You are the ruler of the
Yeah, when we're done.
All my toes were moving, bro.
Sorry?
All my toes were moving.
Nice. Yo, we got gift dancing over here, man. Yo, but Hosanna is epic. It's just
like what, 20 years old. Yeah.
20 years old. I could listen to that song on loop all day and not even feel a way about it. Not even feel a way about it.
It's that's it, you know, and that's his gift, man. He has a gift. Let's not deny it. He has a gift. He has a gift for putting together compositions that make you, you know, that make you get right in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That gift.
So I think the title that you gave him, Gift, was correct. Most influential, definitely.
For sure. Yeah, Dwight was right. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, it was Dwight. My bad.
Right. Yeah.
It's all good. Yeah, man. I'm looking at some of the titles on that because I was like, man, I don't remember all these albums, man. It's just like it's a long time. So I was checking out the Rebirth and seeing that Hosanna was on it, Caught Up.
Yeah.
Brighter Day.
Oh, Brighter Day was something.
And then you got He Reigns.
Mm.
Oh, then When I Get There.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, man. Throw your hands up.
Best album of all time.
So the other day, I'm gonna call out Fabi. So the other day, because the girls, since we've been on quarantine, the girls have fallen in love with the movie Prince of Egypt. Okay. And it's kind of ironic because it fits well, you know, with the whole plague situation, right? So Fabi was all into the Boyz II Men, I Will Get There, you know, the classic, I will get there, you know, and you know, and the girls love it too. They're listening to it on repeat. But I told Fabi, no, that's not my song from the movie. My song from the movie is Let My People Go by Kirks Discussion. And right away, Fabi's just like, nah, that song's so lame. We put it on. 2 minutes later, Fabi's like, finally, you know what? Actually, no, I really love that song. She's like, yo, I forgot how great of a song it is. I'm like, I know, right? Oh, man, that's funny. Good stuff.
Awesome. That's awesome.
So, hey, man, we're at 56 minutes into our live stream.
It just flies by.
It's crazy. Yeah,
that's it. You know,
I gotta say. Sorry, go ahead, bro.
No, it's a good inaugural run, and as these get easier, it's gonna get easier to do. And it's nerve-wracking, right, Terry, to set up.
Oh man, I showered for this. Like, like I woke up this morning. I had showered the night before, so I woke up this morning. I did work, you know, whatever. And like, it's funny because I don't know if this happens to you guys, right? We were talking about this, but if you know that you have a conference call and you haven't really had a chance to like brush your teeth, don't you just feel like you got to brush your teeth and get like a little fresh out, even though you know you're not going to see the people you're talking to? But it feels weird to talk to your colleagues and be like, I didn't brush my teeth yet. It's so weird, man. It's such a weird dynamic.
You got to put your best foot forward, man.
That's it.
This is part of the dream. You know,
honestly, guys, like this was nice to have a discussion with you guys about all these things and stuff. And sorry about that. Yeah, thank you so much. Like this was like really nice to share this moment with you and just like to talk with you guys.
We got stuff to talk about, man. You're absolutely right.
For real. Yeah. We're trying to encourage some people to join us, you know, eventually. So hopefully we'll at some point maybe even interview some people and get. It'll be fun to get other people's perspectives and stuff like that, you know. And
as the show evolves, and we'll add some stuff in. Yeah.
And next time, guys, don't be shy to ask questions, to ask us questions. I
have to put him on blast. But no, actually, I want to salute my brother Kofi because honestly, I think it was a lot of the contributions that he made in our group chat that kind of just brought us to the point where we're like, yo, we need to talk about this topic and we need to do it now. And I would have loved to have his opinion, but hopefully one day he'll join us here. But you know, I don't want to put him under no pressure or anything like that. So
he'll be out.
So thank you, everybody. Do you guys anything else we want to talk about before I close out?
Wrap here. We're gonna wrap.
Spread the word. Share.
Yes.
See us next
Cool.
time. And
Yeah.
ask us questions. We would like to like interact with you guys so that you guys don't just hear us speak.
Yeah.
Engage with you guys too, you know.
There's gonna be a lot more content like this. We're gonna try and bring interviews, other people on and so on, and we're gonna try to drop these weekly.
Yeah.
For real. Yeah, weekly for sure.
Yeah.
And you know, let's just continue doing what we're doing, and you know, everybody stay safe.
Yes.
You know, watch out for your family. Reach out to people, you know, in your circles and stuff like that, because this whole COVID-19 thing is tough to be coping with and stuff like that. And now, I'll admit, I'm a homebody. You know, I'm the type of person that I'm so antisocial that this is kind of good for me, because I'm just like, cool, you know, I talk to you on Skype once in a while.
Yeah.
But it is getting long and it's getting tough, you know. So it's not like we're home under circumstances that we actually enjoy. It's tough being confined like this.
Yeah.
And not everybody's confined in good conditions. So we just want to think about those people and keep them in our minds and in our hearts. So,
Yeah.
So thanks for joining us, everybody.
In a nutshell, stay safe.
Oh yeah.
Brush your teeth when you get on Skype or Zoom, as Terry just said. Shower up. You know what I'm saying? And keep up the good vibes.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. All right, guys.
Thanks.
Cool, man.
Peace.
Bye.
Take care, guys. Thanks for joining us again.
Thanks.
Bye.